Madhava Jayo Kunja Bihari Jayo Radha Madhava Jayo Kunja Bihari Jayo Gopi Jana Vallabha Jayo Girivardhari Jayo Girivardhari Jayo Gopi Jana Vallabha Jayo Girivardhari Jayo Girivardhari Jayo Yashodanandana Jayo Braja Janaranjana Jayo Braja Janaranjana Jayo Yashodanandana Jayo Braja Janaranjana Jayo Braja Janaranjana Yamuna Tiravanachari Jayo Kunja Bihari Yamuna Tiravanachari Jayo Kunja Bihari Jayo Radha Madhava Jayo Kunja Bihari Jayo Radha Madhava Jayo Kunja Bihari Jayo Gopi Jana Vallabha Jayo Girivardhari Jayo Girivardhari Jayo Gopi Jana Vallabha Jayo Girivardhari Jayo Girivardhari Jayo Yashodanandana Jayo Braja Janaranjana Jayo Braja Janaranjana Jayo Yashodanandana Jayo Braja Janaranjana Jayo Braja Janaranjana Yamuna Tiravanachari Jayo Kunja Bihari Yamuna Tiravanachari Jayo Kunja Bihari Jayo Radha Madhava Jayo Kunja Bihari Jayo Radha Madhava Jayo Kunja Bihari Jayo Radha Gopi Jana Vallabha Radha Gopi Jana Vallabha Jayo Nitai Patita Pavan Gaura Hari Nitai Patita Pavan Gaura Hari Prabhupada 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 Jayo Jayo Prabhupada Jayo Jayo Prabhupada 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 Jayo Jayo Prabhupada Jaya Vishnupad Paramhams Parivadajakacarya Ashtota His Divine Grace Abhay Charan Aravinda Bhakti Vedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada ki Jai. Jaya Vishnupada Paramhamsa Parivarajakacarya Ashtota His Divine Grace and Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Goswami Maharaj Prabhupada ki Jai. अनंत कोटि वैष्णव वृंद की जय नामाचार्य श्री हरिदास ठाकुर की जय श्री रूप सनातन भट्ट रघुनाथ श्री जीव गोपाल भट्ट दास रघुनाथ गोस्वामी प्रभुगण की जय प्रेम से कहो जय श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधर श्रीवास आदि श्री गौर भक्त वृंद की जय श्री श्री राधा गोपी जन वल्लभ गोप गोपीनाथ श्यामा कुंड राधा कुंड गिरिराज गोवर्धन की जय मथुरा वृंदावन धाम की जय मायापुर नवद्वीप धाम की जय पुरुषोत्तम क्षेत्र जगन्नाथपुरी धाम की जय श्री एक चक्र धाम की जय गंगा मैया यमुना मैया की जय भक्ति देवी तुलसी महारानी की जय समवेत गौर भक्त वृंद की जय निताई गौर प्रेमानंदे हरि हरि बोल all glories to assemble devotees, all glories to assemble devotees, all glories to assemble devotees, all glories, all glories to lotus feet of Sri Sri Guru and Sri Gauranga, Srila Prabhupada ki jai. ॐ अज्ञानतिमिरान्धस्य ज्ञानञ्जनशलाकया चक्षुरुन्मीलितं येन तस्मै श्रीगुरुवे नमः श्रीचैतन्यमनोभीष्टं स्थापितं येन भूतले स्वयं रूपा कदा मह्यं ददाति स्वापदान्तिकं वन्देऽहं श्रीगुरो श्रीयुतापदकमलं श्रीगुरून् वैष्णवांश्च Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Sahagana Raghunathanvitam Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadhutam Parijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padan Sahagana Lalita Shri Vishakhanvitam हे कृष्ण करुणा सिंधु दीनबंधु जगतपते गोपेशा गोपिका कांता राधा कांता नमस्तुते तप्त कांचन गौरांगी राधे वृंदावनेश्वरी वृषभानुसुते देवी प्रणमामि हरिप्रिये वंशाकल्पतरुभ्यश्च कृपा सिन्धुभ्य एव च पतितानां पावनेभ्यो वैष्णवेभ्यो नमो नमः नमो विष्णुपादाय कृष्णपृष्ठाय भूतले श्रीमते भक्तिवेदान्ता स्वामिनिति नामिने नमस्ते सारस्वती देवे गौरवाणी प्रचारिणे निर्विशेषा शून्यवादी पाश्चात्य देशतारिणे जय श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैता गदाधर श्रीवासादि गौर भक्त वृंदा हरे कृष्णा कृष्ण कृष्ण हरे 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 राम 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 हरे हरे मुखं करोति वाचालं पङ्गुं लङ्घयते गिरिं यत्कृपात्तमहं वन्दे श्रीगुरून् दीनतारिणं परमानन्दमाधवं श्रीचैतन्य ईश्वरम् We are reading from Canto 3, Chapter 26, verse number 47. Nabho guna visheshortho यस्या तच्छोत्तरम् उच्यते वायुर्गुणा विशेषोऽर्थो यस्या तत्स्पर्शनं विदु नभो गुणा विशेषोऽर्थो यस्या तच्छोत्तरमुच्यते वायुर्गुणा विशेषोऽर्थो यस्या तत्स्पर्शनं विदु नाभो गुणा विशेषोऽर्थो यस्या तच्छोत्रमुच्यते वायुर्गुणा विशेषोऽर्थो यस्या तत्स्पर्शनं विदु Synonyms Nabaha guna vishesha the distinctive characteristic of sky sound Arthaha object of perception Yasya whose Tat, that, Shrotaram, the auditory sense, Uchyate is called Vayu Gunavishesha, the distinctive characteristic of air touch. Artha, object of perception, Yasya, whose, Tat, that, Sparshanam, the tactile sense, Vidhu, they know. Translation purport by His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada ki jai. The sense whose object of perception is sound is called the auditory sense, and that whose object of perception is touch is called the tactile sense. Purport: sound is one of the qualification of the sky and is the subject matter for hearing. Similarly, touch is the qualification of the air and is the subject of the touch sensation. Okay, once again, translation. The sense whose object of perception is sound is called the auditory sense, and that whose object of perception is touch is called the tactile sense. So, we are discussing the fundamentals of material nature, the process of creation. Just before we discuss the creation of various Mahapanchbhutas, beginning from ether, air, then fire, then water, then um, earth. And we saw Kapila Muni explains air when by the superior arrangement, when the taste is added to air, that results in water. And water with its taste element by superior um, interference, when the order, that was the last verse, when the order is added to water, that results in um, the earth element. And likewise fire, when with the um, with the with the form element, um, fire has the form element. That is a distinctive feature of fire. The distinctive feature of air is the touch element. The distinctive feature of water is the taste element. The distinctive feature of earth is the smell or the odor element. And fire with its form feature, when by superior arrangement, when the taste element is added to fire, it turns into water. And when the sight element, form element, is added to air, it turns into the fire element. So in this way, the creation is being described, and now the process of creation is over. I mean, the five. Now there is a summary kind of. Here it says that the sense whose object of perception is sound is called the auditory sense, and that whose object of perception is touch is called the tactile sense. So now, the auditory sense, the which is basically the ear, um, the object of perception is sound, hearing, and the tactile sense, the sense of perception is touch. So I was reflecting on this verse. I'm like, okay, it looks like a very short verse, and what can I reflect on that? So I thought of discussing something about the process of hearing, because it says that the auditory sense, the sense of perception, is hearing. Um, One very simple thing that is spoken is, I think recently I was hearing in a lecture that we have 2 ears and one mouth. So that shows the importance of so the sense, um, that itself shows the importance of the hearing element. Then one thing that we are requested again and again to hear is the mantra. One time, one devotee asked Noapan Maharaj, how can we increase our absorption in chanting? And Maharaj said, hear, hear the mantra. He said, the ear has the capability to control the mind. The mind naturally um, wants to go here and there, but the sound vibration of the holy name can capture the mind. one devotee one devotee asked Prabhupada also, Prabhupada, how can we control the mind? Prabhupada says, because he said, Prabhupada, during chanting, mind goes here and there. So how can we control the mind? And Prabhupada says, well, you speak, and whatever you speak with your mouth, you hear with your ear. And then Prabhupada said, now where is the question of mind? Where is the mind coming into picture? You speak the mantra with your mouth, and then let the vibration go into the ear, and you hear the mantra. And that's all you have to do in chanting. Many times Prabhupada says, chanting means just hear, just listen attentively, listen carefully. Um, um, so there is so much emphasis on the hearing element. One time Kalakanta Prabhu was mentioning that hearing is also a symptom of humility. He said, when we hear, sometimes we have uh, our choices of whom we want to hear and whom we don't want to hear from. Um, so Prabhu was mentioning, just doesn't matter whoever speaks. If it is Krishna Katha, we should be willing to hear. And sitting and hearing from others is also a sign of humility. I know, like I think last weekend I went to New Vrindavan, and Chandramauli Maharaj was here. I mean, I met him here, and then the next week and weekend I spent in New Vrindavan, and Maharaj also came there. So there was this festival of inspiration going on, and I noticed. I mean, Chandramauli Maharaj has, like, he was not scheduled to speak anywhere because it was a surprise visit that he came. And then Maharaj came. Then he was going to all the seminars with his notes. He would go, he would sit, and he would hear, and then he would ask questions. So it's like, when Krishna is in the center, when I'm not in the center, um, when Krishna is in the center, and when the process of devotional service in the center, then okay, how can how can I please Krishna? Well, somebody is glorifying Krishna, let me go and hear. Krishna is getting glorified. Um, naturally in a state of humility, um, some yeah. Anyways, one devotee asked His Holiness Radhanath Maharaj, we want to hear some devotees, but we are not so much interested in hearing others. How should I deal with this situation? How should I tell my mind? Then Maharaj said, well, when you have to give class, do you want to be heard? He asked him, and he asked everyone, when you have to give class, do you want others to hear? Now think in the same way, when somebody else is giving a class, then they also want to be heard. Why they are, I mean, they get an opportunity, they are grateful, they prepare, they speak. Um, so hearing itself becomes a very important service. One of the way we serve senior devotees is just by sitting and hearing from them. I remember there were some senior devotees visiting. Um, so devotees were trying very hard to make all the arrangements for comfortable stay, um, for nice prasadam. So um, make them feel very, very happy. And I was telling them, Prabhuji Mataji, it's not these arrangements that will make devotees who are visiting happy. If you want to make them happy, then you have to give them your ears and you have to bring other ears. So the devotee is happy when they are heard. Or the best way to serve a devotee is give them a chance so they can speak about Krishna to as many devotees as possible. Hearing is also a service, um, very important service. Everyone is like in Krishna consciousness, everyone is in a mood of service in a way. The person who is speaking is also speaking, Krishna, please help me to serve them. And the person who is hearing should also think like, let me try to serve, um, let me try, my service is to hear from them. And that's how I'm pleasing these devotees by hearing from them. And that's why I'm pleasing Krishna by hearing about him. So the person who is speaking is also in a mode of service. People who is speaking is also in a mode of service. Principle of service is something that is common. Prabhupada also says about um, um, hearing um, in one of the purports. Prabhupada says hearing is the beginning of our Krishna consciousness, and hearing takes us to uh, uh, further and further steps. I want to say something about this, like today is also, I'll come back to this principle of hearing, but I want to emphasize on the principle of Ekadashi also, because today is, the most rare Ekadashi, Pandav Nijal Ekadashi. And we know the story of um, Bhima, who asked Vyasadeva, um, how I can get the benefit of following all the 24 Ekadashis um, without even following those Ekadashis. What is something that I can do? First, he asked Vyasadeva, is following Ekadashi important to go back to Godhead? So Vyasadeva said yes. Without following Ekadashi, one will not go back home back to Godhead. Vyasadeva says. Then Bhimsen becomes a little bit morose and he said, but because of the fire element in my stomach, I cannot follow the Ekadashi. I cannot fast. It is too difficult for me. Then there is this interaction, and Vyasadeva quotes the instruction of Lord Krishna, who says that yes, on this particular Ekadashi, Pandav Nijal Ekadashi, one gets the benefit. If one has broken any Ekadashi by doing Nirjal on this Ekadashi, one gets the benefit of following all the Ekadashis. It is mentioned that one should not take any amount of water from sunrise today to sunrise tomorrow, as per the scriptures. And if one has to do Achman, then one can take the amount of water that is sufficient to, like, a drop of water one can take to do Achman. And in this way, one reaps the benefit of following all the 24 Ekadashis. So a lot of importance is given. We see there is a lot of importance given on following Ekadashi in the scriptures. One instance, there is an interaction between Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and his mother. And Mahaprabhu told his mother that, please give me one promise. Sachi Mata said, yes, Nimai, what promise you want? And Nimai said, you will not eat any grains on Ekadashi. Please give me this one promise. And that shows that Mahaprabhu was emphasizing on importance of following Ekadashi. And there is another story of how um, um, even in Krishna's time, Nanda Baba would follow Ekadashi. Nanda Baba, there is a story of Nanda Baba. He was breaking his vow of Ekadashi on a Dwadashi day. And that's how he was taken by a servant of Varuna. And then Krishna went under the ocean to bring Nanda Baba back. So that also shows that Nanda Baba used to follow Ekadashi. This is Dwapar Yoga. Then there is instance of mm, Ambarish Maharaj. This is Satya Yoga. Ambarish Maharaj. I don't know which yoga it is, but yeah, much older incident. Ambarish Maharaj followed the Ekadashi Vrata for 1 year for the benefit of the citizen. So there are many instances since this in Bhagavatam it is there that since time immemorial this principle of Ekadashi is being strictly followed. Um, then there is one instance of deviation also in the scriptures where there is this resident of Radhakund. His name was Rup Kaviraj, and he naturally he became senior because he was practicing for many decades, and he started thinking that rules and regulations are not so important, and if one is practicing bhakti, that's sufficient. And he started telling his followers, his disciples, whatever it is, that following Ekadashi is not so important. It's okay, you try your best. If it's difficult, then don't worry about it. So this is called deviation, when one is going against the scriptures and against the acharyas. And that's how he started deviating more and more on the principles set up by Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and Lord Krishna. And then we know the story where once, he started thinking himself to be an acharya. And he was not that much qualified because the nature of qualified devotee is he follow as it is. So there is an instance where he was giving a talk on the bank of Radhakund. And this Vaishnavi, Krishna Priya Thakurani, she came and she was hearing Bhagavatam, but because of her addiction to chanting the holy names of Krishna, as she was hearing Bhagavatam from Rup Kaviraj, she was focused in her hearing, but at the same time her lips were moving. So, like her lips were moving, her mind was chanting because she was addicted to chant. Um, and Rup Kaviraj, he became offended. Um, and then he became angry. He criticized Krishna Priya Thakurani. And that was an incident. That was kind of a turning point. After that, he started falling down more and more and more, more and more and more, and gave up his position and his residence of Radhakund. So one should be careful not to deviate from what is given by the previous acharyas. Um, and one lecture I was hearing while I was in New Vrindavan, Raj Hari Prabhu, I think Washington DC temple, I think temple president Anand Vrindavan, something like that. Mataji and her husband is Raj Hari Prabhu. He gave many seminars on conflict resolution, and he says most of the time, most common reason of why a conflict happen is assumption. When this is the mind game. Um, when mind assumes like somebody is doing something, then or even if the other person is very good, it just the mind creates an assumption. see, they are thinking like this about me, or um, uh, whatever, um, they don't like me. Um, they, they, whatever the mind can assume. This is same thing happens with Krishna Thakurani. Her her um, intention was to hear from Rup Kaviraj, and she just was, and her, it was natural for her to continuously chant because of her absorption in her attachment to the name of Krishna. But her ears was completely given. But he assumed that she is chanting because she wants to disrespect me. And because of that assumption, he became angry. And that became the cause of his fall down. So Prabhu was mentioning the main reason why conflict happens is because we assume something. The other person has no intention of that, but we just assume. This is like, what happens is when our mind is disturbed, then we try to reflect our disturbance on others. And then when mind is disturbed, then mind thinks so many things. Mind has a natural tendency to make other the cause of one's suffering and not make oneself or one's own past, but make others the cause of one's suffering, and then disturbed mind will do all these things. That's why Prabhu Maharaj was mentioning um, um, Bhakti Purushottama, Sthita Pragya. One should try to become a steady mind, a mind of steady intelligence. Mm, mm, Mind is actually, like Prabhuji says, mind is a nonsense. So we have to be very careful, and we should not trust the mind. If we trust the mind, then we'll create problems. And Maya naturally attacks through mind and attacks from within and wants to create conflict. Because once conflict, it's like it's done. She is successful. So one has to be careful from that perspective. So one should be careful not to deviate from the principles given by Srila Prabhupada, given by previous acharyas, and try to follow as much as possible as it is. This is called serving the instructions. Naturally, Prabhupada also says Krishna consciousness is a gradual process. Um, and we see Rupa Goswami says, for one who is desiring to make progress in Krishna consciousness, the sar or the essence is one should engage one's time wholly and solely in um, um, in being engaged in Krishna service. Here is this, I think it's next of instruction. Um, I can quickly check. It is eighth verse where Rupa Goswami says, Kalam nayed akilam iti upadesha saram. Kalam is time. Nayed akilam. Akilam means all one's time. Kalam nayed akilam iti upadesha saram. The essence of all the instructions is um, complete time one should engage in serving Krishna. It does not mean that one has to be in a particular ashram uh, or wear a particular cloth, but whatever one is doing, one should try to do it while being conscious of Krishna. Um, and whatever time one has, especially in the morning, Prabhupada emphasized so much Brahma Muhurat, so much he emphasized. The Brahma Muhurat should not be used. Prabhupada was like, strong. The time, Brahma Muhurat time should not be wasted in sleeping. Brahma Muhurat is the best time to make spiritual progress. And I mean, we all have experience when we chant in Brahma Muhurat, then it's nice. But when we The daytime, I mean, still we can absorb ourselves if Krishna's mercy is there. But Brahmara time is so nice. Everything is silent, saturated mode of goodness, especially morning, wee morning hours. Those, when the sun is arising, and when it is still dark, it's 1.5 hours before sunrise, and the sun is rising. Best time to call out to the names of Lord Krishna and to focus on hearing those names. And then whatever thought comes, if it is related to Krishna, let them come. But focus on hearing those names of Lord Krishna during these wee hours in the morning. And then whether it is afternoon time, evening time, naturally Maya is very strong. So one has to be very, very careful. Um, Bhagavad Gita also says one should be aware what is to be feared, what is not to be feared. So one should be very fearful of material energy because um, she's there everywhere. She's there to capture us any moment. She's there, and it may become very difficult. Prabhupada says strictly follow the rules and regulations of devotional service. Strictly follow. Why? Because the mind is naturally inclined to enjoy. Mm, this is like deep rooted tendencies there, and that's why very carefully with fear of material energy, one should try to use one time in Krishna service. And something that helps is planning helps. Yeah, of course, Krishna interferes in our plan all the time, but then the desire, if we have a desire to be in Krishna's zone throughout, then Krishna will help us to, Krishna says, time I am. All the living entity has in his power is, it's just a free will of a living entity to be sincere and uh, a desire to be sincere, a desire to be Krishna conscious. And when that is there, then Krishna will help us. Um, Krishna is the intelligence of the intelligent. The inspiration comes from Krishna. So in many ways, we are completely, we are controlled by Krishna. He is Sarva Karana Karan, cause of all causes. And when we have that desire, then Krishna will help us from within to make a plan for us that we will think that it's the plan I want to make, but Krishna helps us. And then we feel like, okay, what do I do now? What do I do now? How will I spend my whole day? How will I spend tomorrow? In that way, we want to um, very carefully in all circumstances be engaged in some form of Krishna service. Another aspect of serving Krishna is if you want to serve Krishna effectively, then one recent lecture I was hearing, I think it little bit in the past, but I tried to apply this in my life is one should be aware of what are one's strength and what are one's weaknesses, where I can serve better, where I cannot serve. And we should keep the principle of service in the center. Um, Wherever my strength are, we should serve Krishna in those areas. Wherever our weaknesses are, we should let others who have the strength in that particular area to serve. And we should we have a little Krishna house here. So one time we were discussing with Kalakanta Prabhu, how do we make decisions? And Kalakanta Prabhu was mentioning that we should make decision. You can know your decision is right if in your decision benefit of others is the main concern. You can always think, whatever decision I'm making, is it good for others? If you're always thinking if it is good for others, if it is good for others, if it is good for others, then your decision will be right. Or in other words, whatever is, however I can serve Krishna more favorably, however better service can be rendered, not how how I can be used in in rendering better service, but how others will be best served, whether with me or without me, through me or through others, but how others can be served. And that itself is a service. So that requires an understanding of what are my strengths and what are my weaknesses. And then how, whatever my weaknesses are, who can cover me up in those weaknesses? Who can be a strength there? Because ultimately the purpose is the whole service is strong. The whole service is favorable for others. The whole project is strong. Um, so service is a so seeing Krishna in the center of our service will help everyone go forward. I'll read something quickly from my phone from the purport. In the neophyte stage, one should always engage in hearing Krishna Katha. This is called Syamananda, the stage of hearing. Keep on hearing. One should always engage. One should always engage in hearing Krishna Katha. By constantly hearing the transcendental holy name of Krishna and hearing of his transcendental form, qualities, and pastimes, one can attain to the stage of acceptance called Varanadasha. When one attains this stage, he becomes attached to the hearing of Krishna Katha. One becomes attached. In the beginning, hearing as a matter of regulation, and then one becomes attached to hearing of Krishna Katha. When one is able to chant in ecstasy, he attains the stage of Smaranavastha. Prabhupada says when we can chant in ecstasy, then we can remember. Then we come to the stage of Smaranavastha or the stage of remembering. Recollection, absorption, meditation, constant remembrance, and trance are the 5 items of progressive Krishna Smaran. Recollection, absorption, meditation, constant remembrance, and trance are the 5 items of progressive Krishna Smaran. At first, remembrance of Krishna may be interrupted at intervals, but later remembrance proceeds uninterrupted. When remembrance is uninterrupted, it becomes concentrated and is called meditation. When meditation expands and becomes constant, it is called anusmriti. By uninterrupted and unceasing anusmriti, one enters the stage of samadhi or spiritual trance. At smarana dasha or samadhi has fully developed, the soul comes to understand his original constitutional position. At that time, he can perfectly and clearly understand his eternal relationship with Krishna. This is called Sampatti Dasha, the perfection of love. Wow. So hearing this is actually gives, I mean, for me, it's like impossible, impossibly long journey to tread from where we stand. And my experience, whatever very little experience I have in Krishna consciousness, the process is gradual. And this is my realization after a few years in Krishna consciousness. The process is gradual. And now, already it's gradual. In that, how much gradual you want to make it, that is our choice. But it is gradual. And not attaining perfection in this life is becoming more and more realistic for me. Yes, cannot attain because so far one has to go. how Prabhupada described first stage only disqualified. And then there are so many stages that goes. I feel like, oh. But at the same time, it's aspiring. It drives us to be more sincere, keep trying. Rajvihari Prabhu came last year. He says, he also said, don't be depressed that the goal is far. Try to enjoy the journey because the journey itself is very sweet. The engagement in Krishna consciousness, the process of chanting in the morning hours, the process of hearing Krishna Katha, process of reading Srila Prabhupada books, the process of serving others, the process of giving Krishna to others. Everything is itself filled with, um, you know, divinity. They're all spiritual things. But then the goal is very far also. Okay, so I would like to stop here and see if there are any discussions, any questions, any comments.
Hare Krishna, Prabhu. Please accept my humble obeisances almost to Prabhupada. Prabhu, you mentioned that but whatever we do for the benefit of others, whether like the point that you said is whether it is through us or it is through someone else. So on a principle basis, sometimes we understand it, but how can we practically see, understand, and help ourselves, others to have that let go principle? We're understanding, but because we're so conditioned by it, that let going is a big thing. Okay, because I cultivated this person or I'm nurturing this person. So it's, I mean, in a way, there are two ways to look at it. One is, do you really love the person? So you get attached to that person. And it's not like in a bad way, but then you see that when a person is going away, you can't let go. So how do I understand and apply that?
Well, it's not easy, and that's what we are trying to practice. My experience is um, we always want to be in the center, and and the feeling that, oh, benefit of others and my being not in the center is not very pleasing to us. I'm talking about myself. But then what I heard is the best decision you make is in thinking, how can others be benefit? And the whole process of Krishna consciousness is like one lecture I was hearing. Um, the best way you can serve is let Krishna do the job and you don't come between others and Krishna. Krishna is doing his job. Krishna will make them. Krishna is a doer. Krishna will make them Krishna conscious. You just have to let Krishna work on that person, on others. Um, but I feel like uh, there is no just the feeling that there is no dearth of service in Krishna consciousness. There is enough opportunities to engage. And if we don't have fear about how I will be engaged, if we worry about what is best for others, and what is best for others is that part of my weakness in a way. I know my strength, I know my weakness. Can I do this? Or can somebody else do this better? Will my interference do service or will my interference do disservice? And then best barometer is whatever is good for others. And it's a practice. And if we don't do that service, Krishna will give us some other service. Krishna will keep us engaged.
Mm. Yes.
Is that all? Did I answer? I repeated the same
Yes,
thing.
you repeated the point. Sometimes that reiteration will help in, touching or striking. Oh, now it makes sense. It's not that you said it, Prabhu, but I just wanted to understand because there's that small thing of attachment, especially with when you have children or something that comes up more prominently also. I just wanted to understand. Prabhu, I also wanted to appreciate two things. One, we are still here in Dallas at Sadhu Sangha, and when you shared the point of hearing, right? You hear because sometimes we get into this process of, oh, this person is a newcomer, or this person just started reading, but everyone has a realization which sometimes it makes sense. And at Sadhu Sangha, we were hearing every sannyasi hearing with rapt attention the kirtanyas, being present. That could be their own disciple, or Radhanath Maharaj hearing Jayapatak Maharaj's class, or and asking, so like I was observing their attention, how they were hearing, their mood of hearing, because their body language, their facial expression shows when the speaker is speaking. I was like really awed, and I felt that is something I have to learn. Like whoever the speaker is, and when you said a very beautiful point that Krishna, it is a topic of Krishna. That's what we need to focus more than the speaker. And secondly, I also want to appreciate you, Prabhu, that you are really cultivating so wonderful at Krishna House. We got to meet Brett, and we really are seeing the product of your humility, your training, and how you are cultivating and mentoring them. So all glories to your service, Prabhu.
Well, he was a good soul. I just happened to have some service, but yeah, he was a good soul already. But he's a nice devotee. Kalakanda Prabhu once came, so he was like, we have everybody give Bhagavatam classes here. So Prabhu was mentioning to everyone, he says, um, hearing is a symptom of humility. No matter who speaks, everybody should come, sit, and listen. By listening, you are encouraging the speaker, you are serving the speaker, and you are hearing Bhagavatam. And he said, make this a culture. Everybody sits and hear. Everybody hear Bhagavatam. Make Bhagavatam a strong principle, then it becomes attractive. So I just repeated. Thank you. Hare Krishna. Anything else? Anyone has?
Prabhuji, I'm just very, very grateful for all the speakers who give Bhagavatam class every morning, and very grateful to technology also. Sometimes I feel it it becomes difficult to go in person and hear, and just because of this, I'm really grateful to each and every speaker for doing this service to Srimad Bhagavatam. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
Thank you, Prabhuji. It's very nice class, Prabhuji. I could catch the last portion, first few minutes I missed, but that was amazing, Prabhuji. Thank you for 2-3 very important points that you mentioned. One is obviously about hearing, that hearing is a sign of humility, no matter who's speaking. And also earlier that you said about forgetting that I'm missing. I wanted to note down.
Well, if you have heard, it's in you. And when it is time, it will come out. Many times we hear, we appreciate, and then we cannot recollect it. But we have not forgotten it. It's there. And it's just...
I hope, Prabhuji, I hope your words come true. Yes, Prabhuji. That we have to engage in Krishna service by making decisions such a way that benefit others. And if we don't engage in Krishna service in the way we should be, Krishna will still engage in a different kind of service. So better we do what he says. Thank you.
Thank you. All right. So thank
One
you all
last
for
question,
joining.
Prabhuji, if you have a time.
Yeah, go ahead.
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji, the point that we have to work for others' benefit, is it only devotees, or is non-devotees also we can consider?
Hmm.
Because sometimes people are in, extreme suffering they're going through, that time Krishna Kada or a bhakti won't work. But that time they need support. In that
Yeah.
condition, if we are serving means, is that considered?
Yeah, definitely, Mataji. It's a service. See, you were there, Bhakti Purushottam Maharaj seminar,
No, Prabhuji,
Sunday
I was
feast.
out of town. I was out of town, Prabhuji, sorry.
Oh, okay. Beautiful. You heard about his tribal care initiative.
No,
Tribal
Prabhuji,
care.
but it's like recorded, but I will hear later.
Yeah, he's doing extraordinary service by serving them in their needs, whether it is food, whether it is education, and they develop gratitude, and gratitude towards a devotee is bhakti. If anybody becomes grateful to a devotee, this is lot of agyata sukriti. And then when you have a relationship with that person whom you are serving, then you tell them, why don't you come to Sunday feast, try. And they will come. Why? Because they are obliged to you. So service in at the end, Yugal Bishop Prabhuji very beautifully mentioned, someone is suffering and you say read Bhagavad Gita chant, it won't work. But first we help them, and they will develop gratitude. Then we are authentic. And natural symptom of soft-heartedness is we care about others, but we don't go to the extent, we don't. We are discriminative and we are caring. Discriminative means somebody, a homeless, asks money. Okay, then we are discriminative also. But genuine care we should definitely show. Is it all right?
Sure, Prabhuji. Thank you, Prabhuji. I understand.
Thank you. All right. Thank you all very much for joining. My obeisances to each and every one of you. Vancha kalpa tarubhascha kripa sindhubhya eva cha patitanam pavanebhyo vaishnavebhyo namo namaha. Ananta Koti Vaishnav Vrinda ki jai, Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Then my pranams, Prabhuji's Mataji's Hare Krishna. Please forgive me if I spoke anything wrong. Hare Krishna.
Thank you, Prabhuji. Welcome.
Very grateful.
Pranam, Pranam, Prabhu.
Thank you
Hare
so
Krishna,
much.
Prabhuji.
Hari
Thank you,
Bol.
Prabhuji.
Thank you, Prabhuji. Hare Krishna, Dandat Pranam.